Alright, in this lesson we're going to turn what we have so far into this. We'll be able to accomplish all of this while reinforcing what we learned in section 3 about styling within a component. Where do we start? When working with components, because they are composable and shareable, you can really choose any starting point because they aren't completely dependent upon each other. We'll just start from the top down the same way as we created our components. Alright, remember the two rules of styling within a component that we learned? Number 1, creating a JavaScript object whose properties and values will style our component. And number 2, within the JSX element you want to style, we will create a style attribute and assign it a value of our JavaScript object wrapped in curly brackets as it is a JavaScript expression that we want to evaluate. Let's begin in our friendly component and name our variable friendly style and assign it an object. Now that we have done that, let's fill in our properties and values. We'll add a height property and give it a value of 300. We'll then separate this from our next property and value pair with a comma. For a width property, we'll give it a width of 200. Remember, in React, we have to leave off the px or an error will be thrown. We'll give it a padding of 0. Then we'll give it a background color of the hash symbol FFF. Remember, we have to wrap these in quotes. Lastly, we'll copy and paste in some code for a drop shadow to make our container look a little bit better. Now, the last step is to apply this to our component. So in our return statement, we'll go to our parent div holding all of our components and give it an attribute of style and assign it our JavaScript object wrapped in curly brackets because it is an expression that we want to evaluate. So in our div tag, we'll type in style and set it equal to friendly style wrapped in curly brackets. Now, let's move on to our avatar component and we'll style this component. First, we'll create our JavaScript object and assign it to the variable named avatar style. We'll then fill in our properties and values. Margin left and set it to 20 pixels. Remember, when styling within a React component, normal CSS properties such as margin -left are turned into camel case naming styles. We'll go ahead and add another margin top set to 20. Next, we'll take on the width of 150, then the height of 150. And to get that nice round circle look, we'll assign to our border radius property a string of 50%. Now, we'll apply this to our JSX image element with a style attribute and assign it the value of our JavaScript object avatar style that we want to evaluate. Now, let's go ahead and open this up in the browser and look at the results. Nice, we're close to getting this thing wrapped up. Our next step is going to be to style our username component. Let's create an object named nameStyle. We'll give it the property and values of font size, and then we'll assign some font families to it. Lastly, we'll give a margin of 20. Let's now go into our JSX h1 tag and give our style attribute our object to evaluate. Alright, the last part of our lesson will be to apply styling to our getConnected components and the icons within it. We'll create a variable outside of our like, share, and add components. All we are trying to do is create some space between our icons. So we'll create a JavaScript object called iconStyle and give it the properties and values to create this space. We are just going to create a margin for each of those components of 20 pixels. Now, we'll quickly go into each of these JSX elements for like, share, and add, and use our style attribute to evaluate this icon style JavaScript object we created. Let's go ahead and take a final look at this in our browser. There it is, an identical match for our prototype that we were trying to produce. All of this was built with components. In future lessons, we're going to look at how to use props to mass produce these cards with a minimal amount of code. See you in the next lesson.